So do you find yourself in board states that are just so convoluted you can't tell which thing to remove first? Or someone is so far ahead you just can't catch up? If that's the case, I've got a solution for you. So let's set the scene. Within Magic the Gathering and EDH, there is a whole plethora of different types of decks. There's whole different types of strategies that people build and work around within their EDH decks. And then on top of that, there is different meta games that form, whether it's casual or competitive, or what you play at your local game store might be slightly different to what someone plays at their local game store, never mind a different continent or something like that. So understanding threat assessment when you're playing a game, like when you go to Magic Fest or Magic Con or something like that, when you're sitting down with complete strangers for the first time, is so crucial in getting a chance to win that game, you know, upping your average of that 25% chance that you already have. And so we often find as we're playing in these games with new people, or even in your current pods that you play with regularly, that one person will gain an advantage or build up a certain amount of value and become the threat, and they sometimes become the arch enemy, let's say. And the three other players or a couple of other players will use their spells and their removal spells to bring that player back down to a level to give everybody else a chance at winning, and the game starts to balance out. But what we sometimes see in that situation is the biggest threat gets dealt with, and the person in second place, so to speak, that's kind of flying under the radar a bit, then quickly becomes a new threat, but everyone's spent their resources in dealing with that. So what if I told you there was a way we could deal with both of those people and it'd probably just cost you one card? Yeah, let's play some more board wipes. So let's start by talking about the granddaddy of all board wipes, Cyclonic Rift, and what makes this card so great. Because let's face it, it bounces permanents, it doesn't destroy them, it doesn't exile them. So what's so great about this? You know, it costs 7 mana, whereas most board wipes cost like 4, 5 or 6. So it's more mana and it doesn't destroy anything. So why is it so good? And it's the versatility of it that makes it so good. Because it's a 2 mana bouncer permanent, so you can get rid of that one pesky thing that your opponent's trying to win with, a Simic Ascendancy, let's say, that's about to trigger on their upkeep. You can respond and get rid of it. But obviously, most people play it for the overloaded cost to bounce all your opponent's. And so this is where we get into how good it is, because it's instant speed. Now, we know, and I always talk about this on the channel, is the best time to play any type of card is to play it as late as possible. So if you have an instant speed card, you should play it at the last possible moment before the other player is about to get their advantage from having that card, type of thing. Hope that made sense. So if we're waiting for all of our opponents to deploy their threats and building up a big board state, then we can wait until the last player before us is about to end their turn, and on their end step we can then bounce all their opponents. So on our turn we've got an open board to do whatever we want. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Maybe it's a case of somebody's Crater Hoofed and they're doing a load of pumps on their creatures and they're all attacking, and maybe you want to see where they're attacking first before you blow that Cyclonic Rift. Don't just do it in response to the Crater Hoof coming down. Let them declare their attacks, let people set their blockers, see what's happening, and then get rid of it. Because it could be an opportunity for you to let a couple of people die. This is what makes Cyclonic Rift so good. It's that instant speed. Okay? So, putting Cyclonic Rift in its own S tier category, let's say, and just pushing it up there out of the way. Like, what other good board wipes do we have, and why are they good? So, Magic games are dynamic. They change and evolve as we play. There is just so many variables within them that we never play the same game twice. You could play the same deck 1,000 times, one after each other. But you've got 3 different opponents. They're all playing different games. They're all got different objectives and strategies that they're doing. So the way that your cards interact with each other change dramatically that game and how it's going to unfold. So we need board wipes in order to level the playing field, and this is why they were made. Because when one person gets that little bit of incremental value, they draw a couple of cards, they ramp a bit, and then they play a few more permanents one turn. And then the following turn they play a few more permanents. And maybe the table's not drawn into that removal spell. They've not got their Swords to Plowshare or their Generous Gift or their stroke of midnight, you know, they've not got their counter spell or whatever it is to be able to stop this from happening. And or maybe they tapped out or you tapped out and you didn't see that threat coming. And this is where threat assessment comes into it, because you've got to be able to not necessarily see the threat after it's hit the board, but when the threat is going to come down. And when we're playing EDH, that is so hard to do, because this is not CEDH where most decks are pretty similar and pretty streamlined to one goal. EDH is a casual format and people can have anything in their decks. Anything. How many cards are there in Magic these days? Like, a lot. So board wipes really help level that playing field, especially when that one person is just getting ahead, and that one piece of removal is just not going to cut it or make a difference on their board. Okay, I get it. Board wipes can be pretty good in some certain situations, but they're not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and preach to you and say that they're perfect and you should be taking out your targeted removal and be running more board wipes. Not the case. But maybe you should run a few more. And now, before you start swapping them out, I want to tell you about the downsides to board wipes. They're normally sorcery speed. They can cost quite a bit sometimes. You then have to take your turn off to wipe the board, so sometimes you're a turn behind in the form of rebuilding. And, well, the biggest downside is the social damage that it causes, or the damage to the social contract that is the multiplayer format, let's say. Board wipes are seen as resetting the game. And I'm here to challenge that ethos, that mindset that people have, that board wipes reset the game. They don't. If I'm playing a board wipe, it's because I'm using it as an opportunity to wipe the board so I can win. Yeah? And that's how you guys should be playing. If you're wiping the board, it's because you want to get your snowball on. You want to get going. So, how do we do that? And how do we wipe the board and set ourselves up for success after it so the game does come to a close? So it starts off by picking the right cards, the right board wipes for your deck. Now, the right board wipes for your deck are not necessarily the latest and greatest, the most expensive, or the ones that are in the spotlight at the moment, but the ones that match your playstyle as an individual, as a pilot of the deck, and also your deck and what that deck is trying to do. So let's run through these. These are no by means a definitive list. It's just a few that I've picked out that show quite a few different strategies. Vanquish the Horde. This is a way of getting a cheap board wipe that destroys all creatures. One less for each creature that's on the battlefield. So 2 mana, destroy everything. Depopulate. Your deck struggles with card draw. It's multicolored. Most people play multicolored decks in Commander these days. If you control a multicolored creature, you're going to draw a card, and then you're going to destroy the creatures. So you get to replenish that card almost like the board wipe cycles itself. Doomscar is a way of splitting the cost to make the cost more manageable. Kind of like taking out a finance plan, I guess. Not recommended. So Doomscar is normally 5 mana, but you can foretell it for 2 and then pay 3 to board wipe. Remember, it's still sorcery speed even when foretold. We've then got Fumigate, so if you're in a life gain deck or you need to gain life, you can use Fumigate because you're going to gain life for each creature destroyed this way. We've got Phyrexian Rebirth, so if you're weak against a lot of creature decks and your opponents play a lot of creature decks, you can play Phyrexian Rebirth, destroy the creatures, and you're going to end up with one big chunky boy left over the end. Cleansing Nova, Austere Command, these are great. They give you multiple options. You can target those enchantments, those artifacts, or the creatures, whichever is best and that you need to get rid of. Fell the Mighty is great as well if you're in like a low to the ground, Boros aggro or white weenie deck, something like that. And you can basically destroy all creatures with power greater than a target creature. Now that doesn't have to be your target creature, it could be anybody's target creature. So you can target a 1/1 and blow everything up bigger than a 1/1, or if the biggest thing on your board is a 3/3 or a 3/4 or whatever, you can select that power toughness and all the big stuff on the board is going to go away so you can get your attacks through. You know, we've then got Winds of Wrath here, which destroys all creatures that aren't enchanted. So if you're in an enchantment aura matter decks, or you can then basically suit up your guys with auras and then just swing in, and if it gets clogged up on the board state, you just board wipe and all your stuff survives. It becomes one-sided. So these are just fantastic options that all work in different styles of deck. Now that doesn't mean you just have to have this one board wipe. You can still run others of those type. So Austere Command and Cleansing Nova could be great in a Boros aggro deck because you can target those people with enchantments and artifacts, as well as, you know, using Fell the Mighty, so you only destroy the big stuff and the little small stuff sticks around because maybe all your things have synergy and double strike and all that type of thing. So there's 3 board wipes you could run straight away there. Now, I don't know your deck, I don't know what you're doing, so you've got to work these bits out for yourself. So I recommend getting on Scryfall and looking through all the different board wipes. Scryfall's great, it has a whole thing about the syntax that you can use to enable you to search for better things. So yeah, go read up, use it. Maybe I'll do a video about it one day, but yeah, it's a fantastic tool. Definitely use more of it. So yeah, the other thing is as well, these are all white and these all destroy creatures. So we need to mix that up a little bit and we need to give you some more color options. So let's do that. Okay, so now we've got multicolored spell. We've got some black spells, blue spells, white and more white exile spells and some red spells. So we can see with Supreme Verdict, it can't be countered. So you're playing against a mono blue player or worried about your board whites being countered because somebody's so far ahead and they're protecting the board state. This can't be countered. Also only 4 mana, but yes, heavy Azorius colours. Toxic Deluge, absolute classic. Blood Money, this is a great one if you're in a token heavy deck. This also ensures that when you untap on your next turn, you're going to have a boatload of mana to deploy those forces to be able to get that steamroll effect and start snowballing ahead. Blue ones are normally like bounce spells like we see like with Cyclonic Rift. So we've got Washout, which is all sorcery speed, but that's return all permanents of a certain colour. So if you're in a mono blue deck, you can select whatever the most dominant colour is at the table and bounce all those back. You can even select your own colour if you want to like do some bounce shenanigans and replay things. Maybe you've got an Omniscience or something crazy going off, I don't know. We've then got Evacuation, which is return all creatures. And this one's instant speed as well, but it only targets creatures, not all permanents. So you can do it on the end step before your turn, which is also great. Gives you that bit more flexibility. We've then got some exile effects with Farewell and Sunfall. Farewell is absolutely fantastic one as well because it allows you to pick modes, so you can make sure you can hit one of those that is required. So get rid of the enchantments, the creatures, the artifacts, whatever. Also does graveyards as well. So, and when this card resolves, it resolves in that order. So if you choose all of them, because you can choose one or more, you will exile all artifacts, you will then exile all creatures, you will then exile all enchantments, and then you will exile all graveyards. So everything hits the graveyard and then it's wiped. Sunfall, another one. This is a new one as well. It came out with Mirrors of Call of Mana. Exile, and then you can incubate. So yeah, gives you a token that you can then start using. So you've got something on your board state when everybody else hasn't. Chain Reaction. This is a 4 mana one, but it's not a guaranteed board wipe. It's like it's going to do X damage to each creature equal to the number of creatures that are on the battlefield. So if you've got 5 creatures on the battlefield, it's going to do 5 damage to everything. So if their toughness is greater than 5, it's not going to wipe everything. But it is still a good, cheap option, especially if the board states that you play in get jammed up with a lot of creatures. You've got to think, if every player's got 5 creatures, that's 20 creatures on the battlefield. How many creatures have more than 20 toughness? Same Blasphemous Act, that does 13 damage straight up, and that's normally a 1 mana. Absolutely fantastic choices. So, from here, we've got the cards that we want. We've narrowed it down and gone, yeah, this will work, this will work, this will work. We've now got 3, maybe 4 board wipes in our deck. Okay, you can tweak obviously this number depending on how clogged up your board state gets, but we want to make sure we are drawing one if clogged up board states becomes a regular thing. Now, we've got the cards, so what do we do next? Next, it's all about the mindset. We've got our board wipes, they're in our deck, maybe they're in our opening hand and we're keeping one. You know, maybe we've drawn into it turn 3, turn 4, the board state's starting to become a little bit clogged. What do we do? Do we just slam it down? No. Don't just slam it down. Okay, you've got a couple of options. You've got board wipe in hand, maybe you've got the Doomscar Foretold. You know that's there, you know that's an option. Stop overcommitting to the board, but don't do it in such a way that it reveals or tips your hand to your opponents. Yeah, this is where in EDH we start playing like poker players. You're not just playing your cards, you're playing your opponents. So you've got to start thinking along the lines of, right, they're hellbent. They're just slamming cards down left, right and centre. Let's let them overcommit a little bit more. You know, the other person's being quite reserved. They're countering a lot of things. I've got to wait for them to tap out, and then when you get to that point, where you see an opportunity to then wipe and you can steamroll in afterwards. Like maybe that buys you a turn, or maybe it's one turn, maybe it's 2 turns to be able to go, right, I'm going to spend my mana setting up a board state that's not going to be affected by this board wipe, or I'm setting up a board state that helps me draw more cards after the board wipe has happened. So this is where we have information as an individual of what is going to happen in the next turn or two, and we use it to our advantage. Now, obviously, you can try and use the political aspect of EDH, because it's a multiplayer game, to say, right, they're getting ahead, and I'm worried that they're going to take over after, so I'm going to board wipe next turn. If you, the other player that's left, can just help me rebuild a little bit, and then maybe we can try and beat these guys down a little bit, but if you go down that route and you reveal that you've got a board wipe in hand, people are then going to change how they play. They're going to stop committing to the board. They're going to play more reserve. They're going to look for counter spells. They're going to look for protections, Teferi's protection, heroic intervention, all stuff like that. That's going to start to protect their board state. So once you've had that conversation, you've got to play it that turn. If you say you're going to board wipe and then don't board wipe for 2 turns, people will be unsure, and they're going to change how they play and respond to that, and then they may start targeting you. So just be careful on the political side of things, and that obviously is a whole different kettle of fish that you've got to navigate, because the people that you're talking to are all going to treat the game in different ways and be emotional in different ways as well to how they respond to politics. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people don't like their board state being messed with on any level, so just be careful going down that route. I personally would keep my cards close to my chest and try and get my board state into a safe spot and then do the wipe so I can then snowball from there afterwards. Because that is what we're trying to do here. We're using those board wipes to ensure that we can flatter our opponents and then snowball into the win ourselves. We're setting ourselves up for the victory. Not delaying the game, ourselves, victory. Awesome. So now the last thing to do is just to go out there and start jamming some games. Just tweak that deck how you want it. Maybe you've got 3, maybe you've got 4 board wipes in there. Just go out, start playtesting. Play that deck solid for a week, every night. You can play against multiple different opponents, multiple different deck styles, different deck colours, so you can get an idea of how it's going to play. So you can go, all right, okay, maybe I need more board wipes in because this deck is really slow and I am constantly falling behind, so I need to make sure I'm guaranteed that board wipe every game. Or maybe it's a case of, actually, I've put 4 board wipes in and that's too many because I've got a lot of card draw and I've drawn 3 of those board wipes in the last 4 games and I only actually need 1. So then you can balance it out with your card draw in your deck. So this is where you're going to have to do the work yourselves. Like I said before, just playtest and see where the balance is. You don't want to be board wiping every 2 or 3 turns because nobody wants to be in that situation. That's the worst case scenario, and that's when people will start this negative attitude of board wipes of they're just delaying the game, they're delaying the inevitable type of thing. So just remember, when you've got your board wipes, set yourself up for victory. Set yourselves up into a good board state, play the board wipe so you can then snowball into that victory. Don't just play the board wipe just to go, well, they're getting ahead, don't care, whatever, and then sit there for 3 turns, just land pass. No one's going to appreciate that, and then you're going to get slapped. Yeah, not physically, I mean in the game, commander damage or something like that. So yeah, anyway, just play test and see how it goes. If you don't have a big play group where you can go and play to a lot, just play on Spell Table. I often feel like it's quite sad that WotC don't promote Spell Table so much. It's great for people that just can't get out to play stores for whatever reason that may be. So yeah, it's a great way of playing Commander and playing against such a diverse group of people. Like I've played against people in all different countries that I would never play before, so get to see so many different cards. So yeah, if you finish tweaking your deck, just load up Spell Table and start jamming on Spell Table. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you've stuck around to the end, as always, a little something for you guys. I appreciate the support. And remember, if you can like, comment, subscribe and all that good stuff, it really helps out with the algorithm, everything like that. So I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.